Let's read from Srimad Bhagavatam. Thanks. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Hare Krishna. It's Friday, February 28th, 2020. Wording from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 6, entitled Purusha Sukta Confirmed. We're on text 2. Text 2. Sarva Asunam Cha Vayo Cha Tat Nase Parama Ayane Ashvino Oshadinam Cha Gana Moda Pramodayo Sarvasunam Chabayoscha Tanase Paramayane Ashvinor Oshadinam Cha Grano Moda Pramodayo Sarvasunam Chabayoscha Tanase Paramayane Ashvinor Oshadinam Cha Grano Moda Pramodayo Sarvasunam Chabayoscha Tanase Paramayane Ashvinor Oshadinam Cha Grano Moda Pramodayo Sarvasunam Chabayoscha Tanase Paramayane Ashvinor Oshadinam Cha Grano Moda Pramodayo
Sarvasunam Chabayoscha
Tanase Paramayane Ashvinor Oshadinam Cha Gano Moda Pramodayo. On the internet, if someone wants to chant. Okay, we'll go to the word for word. Sarva. All. Asunam. Different kinds of life air. Cha. And. Vayo. Of the air. Cha. Also. Ta. Is. Nase. In the nose. Parama Ayane. In the transcendental generating center. Ashvino of the Ashvini Kumar demigods. Oshadinam of all medicinal herbs. Cha also Grana, his smelling power. Moda, pleasure. Modayo, specific sport. Translation. His two nostrils are the generating centers of our breathing and of all other airs. His smelling powers generate the Ashvini Kumar demigods and all kinds of medicinal herbs, and his breathing energies produce different kinds of fragrance. Text 3. Upanam tejasam chakshur diva suryasya chakshini Karnam disham chatirtanam shotram akasya shabdayo. Upanam, for all kinds of forms. Tejasam, of all that is illuminating. Chakshu, the eyes. Divya, that which glitters. Suryasya, of the sun. Cha, also. Akshini, the eyeballs. Karnal, the ears. Disham, of all directions. Cha, and Tirtanam, of all the Vedas. Shrotram, the sense of hearing. Akasha, the sky. Shabdayo, of all sounds. Translation. His eyes are the generating center of all kinds of forms, and they glitter and illuminate. His eyeballs are like the sun and the heavenly planets. His ears hear from all sides and are receptacles for all the Vedas. And his sense of hearing is the generating center of the sky and of all kinds of sound. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The word Tirtanam is sometimes interpreted to mean the places of pilgrimage, but Srila Jiva Goswami says that it means the reception of the Vedic transcendental knowledge. The propounders of the Vedic knowledge are also known as the Tirthas. Om Gyanat Mirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Admilitamina Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Dadar Sri Vasati Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Rainam Namaskritya Naram Charanarottamam Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam Tato Jayamutirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, and to Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, and to the goddess of learning, Mother Saraswati, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayesh vabhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati tamashloki bhakti bhavati naishtiki. Okay, so the verses are, his two nostrils are the generating centers of our breathing and of all other airs. His smelling powers generate the Ashvini Kumar demigods and all kinds of medicinal herbs, and his breathing energies produce different kinds of fragrance. His eyes are the generating centers of all kinds of forms, and they glitter and illuminate. His eyeballs are like the sun and the heavenly planets. His ears hear from all sides and are receptacles for all the Vedas. And his sense of hearing is the generating center of the sky and of all kinds of sound. Yes, so the chapter is entitled Purusha Sukta Confirmed. And I mean, the practical essence of what I'm getting here, the practical essence is that, so Krishna, through Vyasadeva, through Shukadeva Goswami, and Sutta Goswami, and Lord Brahman, Narada Muni, that we're getting ways to remember Krishna through the material energy. We're getting ways to remember Krishna through the material energy. And the Bhagavatam itself is an incarnation of Krishna. It's described in the first canto. Krishna Svadharma Bhagavate, Dharma Vanity Bisaha, Kalanasham Drishamesha Paranako Punodita. That upon the disappearance of Lord Krishna, the Bhagavatam has arisen, and it's as brilliant as the sun to give guidance to those lost in the darkness of the age of Kali. And so this is a very vital theme throughout the Vaishnava literatures, right there in Bhagavad Gita. So much of Bhagavad Gita is how can we see God through the material energy? And there's just dozens and dozens, maybe hundreds of ways just in Bhagavad Gita. And the Bhagavatam expands on that. And 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, there's a string of verses starting with Rasoham Apsu Kanteya. Krishna says, I am the taste of water. So the idea is when we drink water, let that be a chance to remember Krishna and who we are, servants of Krishna. Let that be a chance to transform matter to spirit. Because in matter there is no shelter. The word tirtha is in here, like a shelter, a holy place. Every time we drink water, Prabhasmi Sasi Suryayo. Prabhupada will say that often is that, can we see God? Can you show us God? So Prabhupada says yes. Krishna says, I'm the light of the sun and the moon. So it's like, so whenever we see the light of the sun and the moon, which is like whenever we're awake, Krishna. So let that help us to remember Krishna. Let that help us to remember God, to remember Krishna. Prabhasmi, Sasi, so I am the light of the sun and the moon, I'm the taste and water. So many ways to help us remember Krishna. And in that way move towards the goal of life. Pranava Sarvaveshu. I am the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. Shabdake, I am the sound in ether. That's kind of repeated in these verses here. So here it says, his sense of hearing is the generating center of the sky and of all kinds of sound. So that's an expansion of what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Shabdake, I am. So any sound, okay, that's Krishna. That's Krishna. Parusham Narishu, I am the, whenever we notice someone has some great talent, then Krishna's saying, let that remind you of me. I'm the source, I'm the essence of talent, the sound. So seeing God in matter, and that's how we spiritualize our existence. That's transformation. That's how we spiritualize the world, transform matter into spirit by transforming our consciousness. Bhagavad Gita, Dharma Vivuda, Dharma Vivuda Bhuteshu Kamosmi Bharatarshava. Krishna says, I am sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles. So in sex life, Krishna is giving us a way to see. So it's a process to transform our kama to go towards prema. And mixing the two, mixing kama and prema, and that becomes very dangerous. This is a scientific way to transform our desire to be the center, to transfer and transform that desire. Let me make Krishna, God, the center. And to do that through the material energy. So a lot of this chapter is all about that. The expansions of Bhagavad Gita, we see here, the first verse here, about the breathing, the fragrance. Krishna says, I am the fragrance of the earth. That's So whenever we smell any fragrance, then that's Krishna. Krishna saying, let that be a reminder of me. Let that be a reminder of me. So, okay. So Krishna in Bhagavad Gita also says, he says, Yad yad vibhutimat sattvam Srimad orjitam evacha tatad eva vagacha tvam mamatejam mamatejam so sambhava. Krishna says, know, he says to Arjuna, know that almighty, glorious, and powerful creations spring from but a spark of my splendor. And then he says to Arjuna, in the last verse of the 10th chapter, Bhagavad Gita, he says, Atavabo naitena kim yatena tava Arjuna. Istabhyamidam Krishna ekam sena stito jagat. He says to Arjuna that he says, but what need is there? Because Krishna describes dozens of ways to realize him in matter. And he says, but what need is there for all this detailed knowledge with but a single spark of an expansion of an expansion of an expansion of myself? I pervade and support this entire universe. So we might question, well, if Krishna is saying, well, yeah, what's the need of this? And why did he spend so much time giving that? So it's true that if one is realizing Krishna as the source of all spiritual and material energies, aham sarvasya prabhava, ata sarvam pravartate timatva vajante mam uda bhava samvita. That if one is realizing Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then, or if one is realizing Krishna like Arjuna is realizing him as his friend. Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. He says, because you're my devotee and my friend. Then it's like, yeah, so for such a spirit soul, with such realization, with such God realization, then there's no particular point or inspiration to try to separately remember Krishna in the taste of water, the light of the sun and the moon. Such a person is realizing Krishna as the source of all material. It's included automatically. And of course, in those more intimate rasas, then one is on the other side of forgetfulness. Then one's not realizing Krishna as the source of all material and spiritual energies. But that's not Mahamaya, that's Yogamaya. So Krishna's telling Arjuna, for someone like you who realizes me, because it was in the 10th chapter that Arjuna completely expresses his realization. You're the Supreme Brahman, and you're the Supreme Person of God. So then what's the need? And for those spirit souls conditioned in material existence, conditioned to want to do my own God project rather than surrender to God. Okay, then Krishna is saying, yes, so for those spirit souls, like most everyone in the world, 99.999+%, for those spirit souls, Krishna is saying, here's a chance to realize Krishna in matter and come to the point where there's no point for all this detailed knowledge. But till we're at that point where there's no point for all this detailed knowledge, this is very helpful. Every time we drink water, every time we experience the light of the sun, moon, every time we use any of our senses. And this, of course, is profoundly important because it's the goal of existence, to transform kama and move towards spiritual prema. That it's this is real shelter. That okay. to whatever extent we're seeing only matter without the spirit behind it, whether it's in our own body or in the taste of water, or in the light of the sun and the moon, and the fragrance of the earth, and the sound and ether, or or in the medicinal herbs. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, I am the healing herb. So if we're seeing and realizing only matter, then that's actually a desperate existence. It's empty, it's hollow, it's dry. It's dry. Because we're associating in such consciousness only with Krishna's external energy. And that's external to the self. So Brahma here, through his disciple and son Narada Muni, is giving us guidance to transform our vision and our association from the external energy to the internal energy. It's described in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Mahatmanas tumam partha devim prakritim ashrita vajantyananya manaso yatva bhutatim avyaya. That the great souls, and Prabhupada uses that verse as the definition of Mahatma, like what a real Mahatma is. A real Mahatma, Mahatma means great soul, is one who's fully taking shelter in the internal energy. Devi Prakriti Ashita. In the internal energy. And so spiritual life, this practical process of Bhakti Yoga, it's a process to cultivate awareness, vision, realization to respond to the context of life through the internal energy of Krishna rather than the Bahiranga Shakti. Internal energy is Antaranga Shakti, external energy is Bahiranga Shakti. And we are Tatastha Shakti, which means marginal energy, sometimes compared to the beach. It's like the beach can sometimes be dry land and sometimes can be covered by water. Yesterday night, just about 12 hours ago, we were conducting some online coach training, principles and practices transformative coaching. And during the coach training, we defined what it means to be a perfectly enlightened soul, what perfect self-realization means. And they asked me to repeat it a few times because apparently it impacted them in some ways. So I defined a perfectly realized, because we were talking about different dimensions of accountability and responsibility. Like there's victim consciousness and there's responsibility consciousness. So I define a perfectly enlightened soul is one who consistently, steadily, unwaveringly responds to the context of life with full realization of spiritual responsibility. Meaning that we spontaneously, we spontaneously respond to whatever context life gives us, including the context of our own mind, the context of relationships, the context of residence, the context of economics, the context of weather. Whatever context life brings to us, we respond to it with realization of God consciousness, realization of Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnam Dachite Purnasya Purnamade Purnam Shishite. Realization of the opportunity for self-realization. That's the sense in which the material context, with all its shortcomings and inevities and torture and pain, is perfect and complete. And we gave the example last night. It's one thing if that really terrible thing that happened to me 25 years ago, I can see some silver lining. I can see my opportunity there for purification and humility and self-realization and assertiveness. So that's nice. And then full self-realization, full Krishna consciousness, full enlightenment means that's the spirit soul tate mukhampam susmikshamano bhujana egama kritam vipakam vivava porbir vidadan maste that describes that full spiritual responsibility, the One responds to the context of life, especially contexts of life that are going in ways that are not the way I would have written the script. Spontaneously, steadily, unwaveringly responds with a view, with a mentality, with a consciousness of realizing God in every situation, realizing Krishna in every situation, realizing my opportunity for joyful growth and self-realization. So that's what this chapter is about. Seeing spirit in matter and training ourselves to see with the eyes of knowledge, the vision of knowledge. And then, of course, the most prominent and recommended way to connect with the internal energy, this is like a secondary way. And the most prominent way that includes the subsidiary ways is through the name. Satatam kirtayantumam yatantas cha vidavra namasyantas namasyantas chamam nityam nityayuktu pasate. So Krishna, he further describes the Mahatmas. He further describes the Mahatmas. The Mahatmas, they're always doing kirtan. Satatam kirtayantumam. And that can look like going in the streets with mridanga and kartals. Kirtan can look like Bhagavatam discussion. Kirtan can look like caring for our child. Kirtan can look like changing diapers. Kirtan can look like anything we're doing with a view towards, here it is, I'm taking prasadam. And I'm like, Krishna has tasted this food. How fortunate I am. That's kirtan. So in anything where we're dovetailing, I'm raising my child to be a follower of Radharani or follower of Srimad Prabhupada. That's kirtan. Story in the pastime of Prabhupada. He was in one of the small centers, and he would dictate into the dictaphone in the early morning, and during the day they would type. And the devotees asked Prabhupada, is that bothering you, that sound of the typing? And Prabhupada said, the sounds of that typing, and I hear that as kirtan. It wasn't just typing some newspaper or some mundane novel. This is typing the Bhagavatam purports or Chaitanya Charitamrita purports. Prabhupada said, that's kirtan. Kirtanya sadari junana pisunichina tori basa ishtuna mani namanadina kirtanya sadari. That is to engage in satatam kirtayantumam, in always nitya, eternally, steadily, without disturbance, without obstacles. Engage in kirtan, that requires that humble mentality that Lord Chaitanya emphasizes. To not be seeking respect for myself, ready to offer all respect to others, and ready to be more tolerant than a tree, and feel oneself lower than the blade of grass. Spiritual humility that moves us to enthusiasm for kirtan. So this is the so to the extent that we cultivate this consciousness, then we become tirtas. Which means, well, like when Maharaj Yudhisthira was speaking with Narada Muni, he said to Narada Muni, Tirtha Kurvanti Tirtani. He said, you are the holy places of pilgrimage. And he emphasized that, like the association with the devotees, this is more important for our process than physically taking an airplane or hitchhiking to the holy places or taking a bath in the Ganges, not to minimize those limbs of bhakti. Most important. So to the extent that we cultivate this consciousness, whether indirectly through material energy or directly through nama, and nama means name, that's the entrance. sometimes it's said, oh, I want to learn about Lila. Learn about Lila, pastimes. Actually, this morning was kind of like, okay, so like Prabhupada gave us the song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Jai Radha Madhava. So you want to absorb and learn about Lila. Meditate on that song. No, but I want just, it's like, so through the name, then we get realization. Through the chanting, then we get realization of rupa, of form, guna, quality, and lila, pastime. Lila. So Krishna says, Deveshuna Maya Mama Maya Durakya Mame Vaye Prapandite Maya Vetam Tarantite. Krishna says this material energy is very difficult to overcome. The one who takes shelter in me, can easily cross beyond this ocean of material existence. So Krishna in his compassion, Srila Prabhupada in his compassion, is giving us many ways to take that shelter. Of course, chanting japa, engaging in kirtan, morning program, drinking water, seeing Krishna in the light of the sun and the moon and the fragrance of the earth, the fragrance of flowers. Seeing Krishna rather than just like, oh, it's a nice day, I'm enjoying. Oh, this water slakes my thirst. Oh, this is a nice flower, let me enjoy it. Ah, okay, this is Krishna. Let me offer everything back to Krishna. Anasaktasya vishayanyata mobiyunjata. Yubhata Krishna sande yukta vairagi mujate. We often use the terminology. This bhakti yoga, it's not a process of elimination, it's a process of transformation. Using our intelligence, racking our brain to cultivate realization of how to engage all of Krishna's energies, all of our senses, to use them in a way where we more and more realize, oh, they're not my senses. These are Krishna's senses. That's what's described in these Sankhya parts of Bhagavatam. The senses, the sense objects. It's all coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So let me use everything in the service of its personal source. Okay, I'll read the verses again, and then perhaps there's some questions, comments, or discussion. So text 2 of chapter 6, Canto 2, Bhagavatam. Sarvasunam chavayoscha tanase parmayane asvinor sadinam cha prano moda pramodayo. His who nostrils are the generating centers of our breathing and of all other airs. His smelling powers generate the Ashvini Kumara demigods and all kinds of medicinal herbs, and his breathing energies produce different kinds of fragrance. Text 3. Rupanam te dasam chakshur divasuryasya chakshini karnal disham chatirtanam shrutram akasha shabdayo. His eyes are the generating centers of all kinds of forms, and they glitter and illuminate. His eyeballs are like the sun and the heavenly planets. His ears hear from all sides and are receptacles for all the Vedas, and the sense of hearing is the generating center of the sky and of all kinds of sound. And I'll just read the last line of Prabhupada's purport to text 3. The propounders of the Vedic knowledge are also known as the Tirthas. So we like that term, touchstone for transformation. By engaging in this process of cultivating the capacity to realize Krishna everywhere, including in sound and fragrance, then we become Tirthas. We become a touchstone for transformation by our very presence. And that comes from associating by those who are masters in the process. So I thank you all for your attention and listening. And just so we're aware, we have here by internet Andini, Dominique, George, and Saraswati. here in person in Alachua, Florida. Patrick, Ramachandra, Malini, and dear Govinda Das. I welcome any comments or questions at this time.
Question.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a question or comment, but I'm trying to think of the distinction between saying like the sun and the moon are like his eyes, for example.
Yeah.
Or like those descriptions that we read now on the chapter 10.
Yeah.
And then the prayers of the pure devotee in the Bhagavatam will say, you are the source of the sun and the moon.
Yeah.
So, like like when you drink water, we can say, well, that's the test of water is Krishna. Or we can say, oh, Krishna is the source of the test of water.
Yes, yes.
And I'm wondering of the two, which one will bring us closer to bhakti yoga and love and devotion.
Yes.
Because it's different.
It is different. It's one, but it's also different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what was coming up for me.
Right.
Thinking of those prayers from many devotees who goes into that.
Yes.
You're the source of the sun and the moon. From you everything emanates. And then like I am the shark. I am the sun and the moon. I am. There's a distinction.
Yeah. I
don't.
Oh, away from. Oh, sorry. Okay, let's put this here. Yeah, I don't have much realization about that. The distinction with kind of like what I understand from Srila Prabhupada in relation to your question, Melanie. It's Prabhupada saying like it's a matter of realization, like to the extent that one is inclined to realize God non-personally, then there will be like, oh, this is the energy, like that. And to the extent that one's inclined to realize God personally, then like through the taste of water, there's like this person, we're grateful for that personal reciprocation. And so that's my understanding.
So the personal reciprocation with the test of water is the test of water, or for me, it was the test of water comes from.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I'm not seeing it as this or that. I think it depends on one's relationship with Krishna. Because Krishna says, I am the taste of water.
In Bhagavad Gita.
So we can just think like, okay, this is Krishna. This is Krishna in his fullness. And that's true.
Is it personal or impersonal?
I see that as personal. But then if someone is, okay, well, this water, this is the energy of the absolute, it's the energy of the Supreme Spirit, then that's more impersonal.
But then the pure devotee, when they speak, they will say, from you emanates the sun or the moon.
Yes.
They don't say, you are the sun or the moon. You are your eyes.
Right.
And they are directly, personally speaking to Krishna.
Yeah, it seems like this personal relationship with Krishna, it's manifest and takes many forms. That's why I say I don't see it as like personal as this or that. It
could be impersonal also to say that the sun and the moon are Krishna.
Yeah, there's the danger that
described at the beginning of the second canto.
It becomes Mayavad.
Yeah. Second chapter of the second canto, we explain the universal form as impersonal.
Yeah.
So become Mayavad, like, Krishna is everything, his eyes is a sun and the moon, but it's not quite personal. You're just trying to imagine something philosophical, but it's not quite personal.
It's philosophized Vishnu, Prabhupada uses that term.
It's like imagination of the philosopher.
Yeah, And so, like, I think this is one of those, you know, Achincha Beta Beta Tattva, Prabhupada writes in Bhagavad Gita, your grandmother was Krishna. And he says just like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's a way where I could misunderstand and misapply that. My grandmother is God. Wow, that means I'm God, like that. And then it can become a misunderstanding, this imbalanced overemphasis on the oneness of everything. And then there's another way. There's another way where, yeah, we can realize God in the taste of water, where it enhances the actual siddhanta of the Achincha Beta Beta Tattva. This is the energy of Krishna, and it's Krishna. It's not Krishna, it's Krishna's energy, and it's Krishna. I mean, Krishna exists in each atom that makes up the water, or the sun, or grandmother's body. And Krishna's the soul of the soul in grandmother's body, or our body.
And nothing is separated from Krishna.
Nothing separated, yeah, at the same time. If we're not guided by parampara, then our consciousness, then we become alienated from our natural connection with Krishna.
Yeah, but I can see, like, if, for example, the sun and the moon with his eyes, like, I'm not sure how personal is that. Because, like, if I look at Krishna, I want to see his lotus eyes. And I don't want to think that there's the sun and the moon.
Right.
You know, like the sun and the moon is this universe in a cloud of material energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
There is something impersonal about that.
Yeah.
And to think like what the sun and the moon emanate from him.
That's more
and they're
personal.
not different from him.
And they're not different, yeah. That sounds more like the realization of a devotee, a personless.
It seems. Because if I look back, I look at Krishna and I imagine like eyes of sun and the moon.
Well, again, these descriptions are for those who are not like Arjuna, who are not like Narada Muni. As Krishna says at the end of the 10th chapter, after he gives dozens of ways to realize him through matter, and he says, like, what need is for all this? For those who are my devotees, who are really appreciating his eternally graceful threefold ending form of Shama Sundar, playing the flute, whose around his neck is the flower garland beautified by the moon locket, and whose figure of beauty is tinged with the hue of dark blue rain clouds, and whose unique loveliness is harming millions of cupids. Then all this realization described in Purusha Sutta, that's included. We don't need to go through that. So this is to bring us towards personalism.
There's a deeper understanding.
Is a deeper understanding.
I have a question about the Vedas.
Yes, Anandini, yes.
Here it says his ears hear from all sides and are receptacles for all the Vedas. So that means like a reservoir.
Like me?
Or,
I want to do that.
are you hearing me?
Okay. Could you say your question again? Because we were playing with sound.
Okay. Are you hearing me now?
Now we're hearing you.
Yes. So I have a question about the Vedas.
Yeah.
Vedas are mentioned here, and that his ears are the receptacles for all the Vedas.
Okay.
So receptacle, that means like a container.
Yes. What a receptacle is a container that receives, like the ears are the receptacles of the Veda. Yeah. Container. Yes.
Yeah. So it's interesting, this perspective that his ears receive the Vedas.
Yeah.
Not that the Vedas come from him.
Okay.
And then I was thinking about that, and I'm wondering, like, the Vedas, are they, so there's Vedas about medicine and war and just all kinds of.
Yeah, every topic pretty much of human endeavor. Yeah.
And do the Vedas like describe how to make best or how to be successful in each of these areas, like medicine or war or whatever it is?
Yes, yeah, this they do. And yeah, whether it's art, dance, the military battles and medicine and agriculture and every field of human endeavor, yeah, the Vedas give sublime guidance of how to achieve excellence, how to be successful. Yes.
And successful in the sense of like materially successful, separate from Krishna, or is it always in connection to Krishna?
It's always in connection to self-realization and Krishna consciousness. How to be material successful while spiritually progressing. That's what the Vedas do. What's that?
But people in Kali Yoga will not see that.
Right. I mean, the way Vedas are often seen is separate from God and just for material. So people in Kali Yuga miss the point. That's why Vyasadeva gave us the Bhagavatam and Gita. But essentially the Vedas are giving us guidelines to live a materially rich and successful and materially satisfying life while advancing spiritually, to realize that we're not matter, we're not the body, we're spirit, soul, and we're eternal servants of God. So that's what the Vedas do. Material success while cultivating spiritual realization and progress. Even like, we gave Dharma Virito Bhuteshu Kamasuni Paratarshava. I guess, yeah, I mean, back decades ago, maybe the only Veda people heard of in the West was the Kama Sutra. Everyone's heard of the Kama Sutra. And it's actually a Veda. Prabhupada calls it Kama Shastra. It's actually a Veda about sex. And it's actually designed for pleasurable sex life while advancing spiritually, like that. But of course, back in my college days, whoever heard of the Kama Sutra never heard much about spiritual advancement. Even there's in Mukunda Goswami's, it might be my favorite biography of Prabhupada. It's a memoir, a Miracle on Second Avenue. But he described it before he came to Prabhupada. He was a musician, hippie, beatnik, and he describes the only Veda he ever heard of was the Kama Sutra. Okay, so, but actually the point is anything, any career, any activity, that the Vedas, how to achieve material success while advancing spiritually, and that's the actual purpose of the Vedas.
So did like Srila Prabhupada, he supported farm communities, and did he give them knowledge about agriculture, or did he refer them to, are there Vedas on agriculture that are accessible for us? Is there any?
Yeah.
Anything?
Right. If we read, Prabhupada gave a lot of knowledge. He gave a lot of knowledge about agriculture and using the bulls and the symbiotic reciprocation between humans and cows and bulls. And Prabhupada gave, he gave a lot of knowledge. Like if we read his talks and lectures at Gita Nagari, 1976. You resided at Gita Nagari for a while, Melanie. Yes, so Prabhupada gave a lot of guidance in that. And at the same time, Prabhupada said that like Varnashram's like the second 50% of his mission. So sure, but Prabhupada gave guidelines, and he also, with caution, encouraged his disciples to excavate the Vedic knowledge. So Prabhupada gave us the main thing we need, the main things we need for the elevator back to Godhead. Chanting Hare Krishna and his books and regular principles and morning program. And as far as development of all the details of the different varnas, well, that's like our responsibility to cultivate that, to learn that. So, so like Prabhupada gave us music. At the same time, there might be some followers who go more deeply into the ragas that the Vedas give. And in doing that, we need to be cautious because one can get lost in studying Vedic music. Prabhupada actually, because he was a pharmacist, he had a lot of medical experience. So even if you read his letters, he'll give so many guidelines on what to do if you sprained your ankle or to brush your teeth, or if you have a toothache. Prabhupada gave us a lot of guidelines, a lot of it coming from Ayurveda. And at the same time, some of his followers, their service is to go more deeply into the Ayurveda with caution, because we can get lost there. Also keeping in mind that we can explore the Vedas. Anything, though, that wasn't directly translated from Prabhupada, it's not like, don't read that, but let's just be aware of how authorized is it? To what extent has it been changed? So these are considerations.
Excavate is the word you used?
Excavate, which means like to dig up, to unearth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to unearth something that's been buried for a long time. So
like Chaitanya, who found the Brahma Samhita.
Yes, that's a good example. He excavated some lost Vedas. And it's described that as far as the original Vedas, from my reading, I mean, like maybe only, even from the time of the Goswamis 500 years ago, less than 10% of the original Vedas were still available. Lord Chaitanya found a few like that. And now it's maybe 6%. And then even of that which has come down, again, anything we get that's not clearly parampara, we need to use our discretion about what's authorized, what's not authorized, how to apply it. And yeah.
So there is a team of excavators somewhere searching for old Vedas?
Yeah, in different ways, yes. Yeah. Old Vedas or excavating literatures of the Goswamis. Back maybe in the 90s or 80s, there was the Matsya project. It was actually a project funded, maybe it still exists, Matsya project, funded by the Smithsonian Institute. Smithsonian, it's a scientific research institute based in Washington, D.C., USA, and like scientific projects or research that are sponsored by the Smithsonian are considered to be very prestigious, considered a very prestigious scientific organization, Smithsonian. And there was many followers of Prabhupada, such as Garuda, Ravindra Swarup, who they were going and they were excavating old Vedic manuscripts and now it's easy to take photographs, I guess, but like back in 1979, you took photographs of things that were like crumbling. So there's projects like that, yeah. And yeah, it's about deciding what's our service, and that's why. So in doing that, we want to be sure, is this my service to Prabhupada, or is this distracting me from my service? And it relates because there's Vedas on all fields of human endeavor, and Veda Vyas Saul. People are going to get distracted, confused, they'll miss the essence. That's why he gave us the Bhagavatam. And that's why Prabhupada gave us what's most important. And yes, he wanted his followers to expand on that in each field of human endeavor and to apply it with intelligence.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not planning to do that, but it's interesting for me to know that, yeah, just connected to teaching. Sometimes sometimes often daily I ask myself what's really purposeful for children to learn, and then I want to encourage them and support them to learn whatever they're interested in. And
Yes.
sometimes that's, to me, it feels like, oh, it's like unnecessary.
Mm.
But more and more, the more I understand how anything they learn can be linked to Krishna consciousness and
Yep.
or their self-realization, then everything I can encourage them more from my heart in anything they're doing, because I can see there's a boy who's interested in archaeology.
Yes.
I can fully support him, and perhaps in some ways it will lead him to old Vedic scriptures. I don't know.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Your field is you're an educator, teacher, facilitator, and so to encourage the youth, the children, to pursue their heart's inspiration, and so you're feeling confirmed and encouraged, because any direction of inspiration, any human endeavor, yeah, it has its origin and source in the Vedas, and so that connection is naturally there.
Mm-hmm.
As long as it's not vegan one, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe something like being a butcher or something. Yeah, I mean, there's some things, just give it up. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thinking just like I've read several of the books of Richard Thompson, Sadaputta, and so he was looking at astronomy and mathematics, and he passed away about 12 years ago, but he was a PhD in mathematics from Cornell University, which is it's an Ivy League university. Anyhow, so he went deep into the Vedas that Prabhupada didn't give it. He went deep into the Vedas on mathematics, and it's fascinating what he found and wrote about. He went deep into the Vedas on astronomy. Prabhupada's spiritual master was an expert, an amazing astronomer. And so I'm just giving that as one example. This devotee's field, Sadaputta, was mathematics and astronomy, also archaeology. And so he went deep into and there are Vedas on mathematics, there are Vedas on astronomy, which naturally expand on what Prabhupada gave us, like that.
Yeah, that's a good book for the kids to find, the one on archaeology. Forbidden archaeology. And it brings Krishna there,
Yeah.
through archaeology. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, there are devotees like Sadaputta and Trutakarma who have excavated the science of excavation, and connected it with Krishna, and they've written some very good books. Yeah, as you said. Thank you, Anandini. Thanks very much.
You mentioned the butcher. I've heard of there's like vegan butcher shops, like where they do the fake meat, like the vegan meat stuff, and so they have like, they're not really butchering, obviously, they're not killing, but they're doing like artisan vegan sausages and things like that. So perhaps even that could be some prashadam, it could be offered.
Some form of dovetailing. Okay. Of course, even in Vedic Dharma, there's something that for people who are really attached to eating meat, there's a way to do it that is somewhat, it's Vedic.
It's in a Veda.
You kill a goat on the full moon day, and you say some mantra, and it's a way to have your meat and gradually make spiritual advancement. Because the mantra you're saying is, as I am killing you and causing you pain, you will do that to me in the future. So it's like, if we keep saying that, kind of at some point we'll be like, what am I doing here? Like this terrible agony, and that's coming back to me. So there is even some butchery in the Tamasic Vedas. All Vedas are meant for transcendence, and some are specifically speaking to people in lower modes. Any other comments or questions?
With Native Americans also, they say that they have that kind of belief.
Yeah.
Or mantra they would say when they're killing the animal. It's like they know that the animal's gonna do that to them later. Like it's in their belief, at least some Native American traditions.
Yeah.
But they don't have like to progress out of it. They just accept it. Well, this is how it's gonna be.
Yeah.
There's not like any idea of like to not do that. It's just like, well, this is what's going to happen. This is going to be the cycle of.
It doesn't move them to be vegetarian.
Yeah.
But they have some philosophical understanding.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. Hare Krishna, thank you all for your association and presence. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol.